Going into the week of the draft, you were wondering, what were the Jets going to do before Thursday? Were they going to make a trade for a wide receiver? There were stories coming out that they were in on Tyreek Hill. It didn't work out. DK Metcalf, that didn't work out. Then going into the draft week, everybody was talking about Deebo Samuel, that the Jets were the leading team to land the great wide receiver on San Francisco, being that he wanted a big contract and he wanted to move to the East Coast because he's from South Carolina. John Lynch said before the draft that he had no intentions of trading Deebo Samuel. A lot of Jet fans said, are the Jets going to make this move to trade away that 10th pick, trade away a certain amount of picks so they can get Deebo Samuel? It was never going to happen. When the draft started, it happened fast. Walker, within 3 minutes of the draft starting, was called up as the number 1 draft pick. Do I think Walker should have been the number 1 pick? I didn't think Walker was a top 5 pick because of his size, playing for the national champion Georgia Bulldogs. A lot of analysts, scouts, seeing him on his pro day and his combine, think that this kid could turn into another Myles Garrett. The Jaguars reached on Walker. That doesn't mean Walker won't be good, but you're reaching when you had an opportunity to maybe go after Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeaux. Then the Lions, they call up Aiden Hutchinson, the hometown player from Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines. He grew up a Detroit Lions fan. I don't know why. Everybody believed the draft was going to start at 3 with the Texans. And over the past week, as we had Daigle on the show, there was a lot of stories coming out that they really liked Derek Stingley. And that if Derek Stingley is going to be there at 3, that they were going to draft him over Sauce Gardner. The Houston Texans select Derek Stingley, LSU. We knew that they needed corner depth, but it made the Jets at 4 in a very, very good spot to land any one of these top talented players. And a lot of Jet fans were screaming Sauce Gardner. I wouldn't be surprised if they were going to draft an offensive lineman, because there were stories coming out from the Jets camp that them and Mekhi Becton are not getting along. Mekhi Becton last year was going into OTAs at 400 pounds, and that he's overweight, and he missed the whole season as Jet fans wanted to run him out when he was a top 6 tackle going into the season last year. The New York Jets select Sauce Gardner. Sighs of relief from the Jet fans. How happy that Jets organization was when they got their guy, where a lot of people thought the Texans made a mistake drafting Derek Stingley at 3. Some people say Sauce Gardner is the best talented corner that they've seen since Jalen Ramsey. Some people say in the next 2 years is going to be the flat-out best corner in the NFL. He does, that's for sure. As a Jet fan, you should be very, very happy that the Jets finally got their man. They haven't had a shutdown corner since Darrelle Revis. You got to contend with Stephon Diggs, who's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Parker. He's not Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs, but in that offense, he is going to fit like a glove.
Also, if they move Tyreek Hill around, Jalen Waddle, too.
So the Jets knew at number 4, they had to land a shutdown corner. Robert Saleh loves those shutdown corners. He loves leaving it to his front 7, and the only way he can leave it to his front 7 is if he trusts his secondary to stop the high-flying wide receivers that are in the AFC.
Physical zone defense that Robert Saleh likes to bring with not blitzing a lot, brings a lot of pressure, though, with the front 4, and the Jets got the corner to shore that up. I think it's a great compliment to Bryce Hall, who's more of a speed corner. Sauce Gardner, physical at the line. You need physical corners in today's NFL to play either a press zone or a physical type man-to-man.
Don't forget about Reed.
A guy you can maneuver all over the place, another guy that can play physical. Seattle defense that has always prided themselves on physical defensive backs. Sauce Gardner is the one with that kind of upside, with that kind of ball skills to make that kind of thing work. A guy that could be locked down. He's not thrown at very often because he didn't allow a touchdown, only allowed one 20-yard pass in Cincinnati. That's a high-scoring conference. They play against Memphis, UCF, SMU. A lot of these offenses are high-flying offenses in college football, and he did not allow a touchdown.
Go see what he did in the playoffs, what he did against Jamison Williams, one of the best wide receivers in the country. He shut him down to a -2.
And even the year before, they played against Georgia in a bowl game. He limited George Pickens.
Going into the season, the Jets probably have the best secondary in that division. Third-year player in Bryce Hall, who was sensational last year. He stopped Jamar Chase, where a lot of corners could not stop him last year. Then you have Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter, who was sensational in the slot last year. So the Jets are going into the season with one of the best secondaries in football, and that bodes well for a pass-rushing team that really droughted last year without Lawson and now Jermaine Johnson. At number 5, the Giants. I was very surprised that they were going to go at that selection with a pass rusher, everything fell right for the New York Giants. Now, I believe that if Sauce Gardner was there at 5, they were going to draft Sauce Gardner. No matter if Thibodeaux was there or not, they were going to get rid of Bradbury, and Sauce could be the most talented player in this year's draft. The New York Giants select Kayvon Thibodeaux. The happiness, the suit, the personality. A guy that I think wanted to come to New York, bring his sponsorships, his endorsements to a big city where he can show everybody why he believes he was the best pass rusher in this draft. Comparing his skills to Sean Merriman, he's been on our show. If he's anywhere close to Sean Merriman at the top of his game, you're talking about an all-pro, pro ball player for the next 7 to 10 years. So if you're a Giant fan, you should be nothing but excited, Speedy.
Yes, absolutely. This is the guy that I was hoping that would slide amidst somebody drafting bizarre in the first round, which the Jaguars did, as we know, with Travin Walker. Number 1 type pass rusher that they haven't had since their Super Bowl teams. Since Jason Pierre-Paul was really all alone, they haven't had that tandem. And now they have the guy to start the tandem with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Has a great combination of moves, great explosiveness and speed on the outside. Could play 4-3 end, outside linebacker and an end. Impactful for Wink Martindale's defense. This is the best pick they could have made. There were 3 tackles still left. It didn't seem like the Giants had one set guy in mind. So they figured, all right, Panthers take one, we'll just take the other. And they made the right move.
Number 6, the Panthers went with Aquanu, Carolina native. I believe the best tackle in this year's draft. Some people say he could be a guard. And then the Giants at number 7, the Giants select Evan Neal, arguably the best tackle in this year's draft class. At one point, everybody said Evan Neal was the predominant number 1 pick. He was the most all-around talent, sure thing in this class as far as offensive linemen. There you get Kayvon Thibodeaux, arguably one of the best pass rushers in the draft, and arguably the best offensive lineman, all-around offensive lineman in this draft class in Evan Neal.
Yep, this was my dream scenario. Even though with the knee injury that was going to have him fall in the draft, I still don't mind that kind of thing for the Giants, as long as they can manage it properly. The Giants, they need to rebuild in the best way possible. They brought in Joe Shane and Brian Dable to create a new identity to this team. Going for best player available when you have that many holes is always the best thing to do. They didn't trade back to not get those extra first-round picks to reach, like past GMs have done. Evan Neal to go alongside Andrew Thomas, 2 of the bigger offensive linemen in the league. Guys that can move around well for their size, too. This is the modern NFL that the Giants have stayed away from for the last 5 years. They finally have it.
Drake London goes to Atlanta. A lot of people thought that Atlanta was going to go with Garrett Wilson. The Jets were trying to move up because they really wanted Garrett Wilson. Then there were stories coming out that teams were trying to trade up for Garrett Wilson at 9. And if that happened, the Jets were willing to move up with Seattle, the same Seattle team that traded that number 10 pick for Jamal Adams. Seattle gets that number 9 pick from the Broncos, trading Russell Wilson. Seattle goes with Cross. So at number 10, everything fell together for the New York Jets. Shutdown corner. And they get their guy in Garrett Wilson. Jet fans were excited. The best explosive player at that position in this year's draft class. A lot of people thought it was going to be Jermaine Johnson. There were stories coming out at the Jets camp that they loved him in his pro day, loved his interview, but it was Garrett Wilson. So Jet fans were not upset about that.
Garrett Wilson is durable, complete wide receiver, and he's the best scheme fit to go deep. Great with contested catches, even though he's not the biggest size guy.
He plays big because of his strength.
The best route runner. You need that kind of guy in this type of offense. I think the Jets nailed this pick. Everyone was wanting to try to trade that pick for Deebo Samuel. He's, I think, going to be a better pure wide receiver than Deebo Samuel. Even if he isn't the all-around runner and stuff like that, he can still be used as that too. And I think he's a better, more talented wide receiver.
He could do everything Deebo Samuel could do. He's not as big as Deebo. I think he's faster than Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is not that guy that's going to go out there and make those unbelievable catches when you're going deep. This guy could beat you on every single level. You could put him in the slot. You could put him on the outside. This guy, they believe, is going to be their number 1 wide receiver for the next 10 years. Having Elijah Moore there and the weapons that they have, this is going to be a fun, explosive team to watch. It all depends on Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson is the real deal, this team is going to take leaps and bounds this year with the weapons they have added. Now going throughout this draft, the trades is what really surprised a lot of people. Something popped up on the screen that there was a trade. It was breaking news. A.J. Brown was traded from Tennessee because he wanted his money, $25 million a year for 4 years, worth $100 million. And at 18, the Tennessee Titans draft Treylon Burks, who a lot of people compare his skills to A.J. Brown. I don't know if he's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's done it in the NFL, and he's one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. It's going to take Treylon Burks a little bit to figure out this offense because he doesn't come from an NFL-style offense. He's going to a team that had A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and a high-flying offense for the last couple of years. So there's a lot of pressure on this kid.
Skill-wise, he's not far behind what A.J. Brown was as a prospect. Year to year, game to game, A.J. Brown has the advantage there, whereas Burks, I think, has a little more raw traits, especially quickness at the line of scrimmage, which rushers is vital in today's game. In terms of Brown trade to the Eagles did what they had to do to get that number one type receiver they've been lacking for years. They don't draft him greatly on their own, so they figure, all right, let's just take one that another team worked at and succeed. Best move they could do. They only had to give up a 1 and a 3. Again, they probably would have drafted one in that spot too. They probably would have drafted Burks, or they would have drafted some weird second round receiver if they didn't.
And there were stories coming out from the Jets camp that they were trying to move up all the way from 15 to get back into the first round with their 2 second-round draft picks because they wanted Jermaine Johnson. And as the draft was going by, everybody was surprised that Jermaine Johnson was still on the board because he was on everybody's board as a top 10 player, a top 10 talent in this year's draft. Some people had Jermaine Johnson as their number 1 pass rusher on their board. You were wondering, are the Jets going to be able to move up? And is Jermaine Johnson going to get drafted? I was very surprised that Jermaine Johnson wasn't drafted by the Cowboys. They needed that other pass rusher. Micah Parsons really had a lot of pressure on him last year as the defensive rookie of the year. Lawrence, he's really becoming a washed-up player. He's not the same player he once was. He got an extended on his contract. They lose Gregory to free agency to the Broncos. They needed that other pass rush. I was very surprised that the Cowboys went with Tyler Smith over arguably one of the top 5 talents in this NFL draft.
It wasn't even just the Cowboys. Green Bay, I was thinking, the Ravens, Arizona, if they kept their pick, could have gone with another edge rusher because they lost Chandler Jones. For a premier position, a speed guy like that with a lot of upside, I'm definitely surprised he fell the way he did. I thought of him as the number 3 pass rusher. I had him ahead of Travin Walker.
Top 6 talent on my board. More consistent than Kayvon Thibodeaux this year. I would have taken him over Kayvon Thibodeaux. I would have taken him over Walker. The only person I probably wouldn't have taken him over is Aiden Hutchinson. And at 26, as the Tennessee Titans were sitting there again, the Jets finally made a deal. And the Jets traded a 5th. They swapped 3rd-round picks with Tennessee, their early 2nd-round pick, and they got Tennessee's 26th pick in the 1st round. And everybody, including me, knew where the Jets were going as Jermaine Johnson was sitting. And by the way, Jermaine Johnson was still on the board, and George Karlaftis was there. I don't think the Jets had any interest in George Karlaftis. And if Jermaine Johnson wasn't there, the Jets probably wouldn't have traded up, or they would have traded up for Breece Hall. But at 26, they select Jermaine Johnson. And did the Jets win the 1st round after landing Jermaine Johnson? Absolutely. Every analyst on the NFL Network, on ESPN, every single analyst was shocked that Jermaine Johnson was still on the board at 26. If all 3 of these guys turn out to be superstars on this team, this could change this franchise finally for the better.
I was thinking the Jets, all right, once they took Sauce Gardner, they'll draft Jermaine Johnson at 10 and trade back in for a wide receiver because after Jermaine Johnson, besides maybe Karlaftis,
I don't think they had any interest in trading up to get a guy like George Karlaftis.
Right. You were thinking, okay, they're going to look at the run of the pass rushers, take Jermaine Johnson at 10, trade back in for a wide receiver, or trade for a veteran wide receiver.
The Jets knew that if they drafted Jermaine Johnson at 10, there was no chance they were going to get Garrett Wilson.
Maybe not Garrett Wilson, but maybe another wide receiver is what I'm saying.
They loved Garrett Wilson. I believe Garrett Wilson was their number 1 target throughout this draft.
In that case, you get the dream scenario now. These other teams pass on a pass rusher that has that much speed, that much upside. Of course, you're going to bolt right in.
Joe Douglas said after the draft that he got his 3 top players on his board in the 1st round. And who would have thought that all 3 of them would have fell the way they did? And could this change the Jets' future for the better? Absolutely. Because I think this draft is going to change everything for the New York Jets. Because you got yourself a pass rusher for the future. You got yourself a corner for the future. You have yourself a wide receiver for the future. The only thing that scares me now is that when these guys in 5 years become free agents, who are you going to bring back, who are you going to sign, and who you're not going to be able to sign. In the next 5 years, you're going to have to win with these guys because to bring all 4 of these guys back, and I'm talking about Breece Hall, where the Jets were trying to trade up in the 1st round to get the best running back, they have to win in the next 4 to 5 years because you're going to have to pay Zach Wilson if he's the real deal. And I don't know if they're going to be able to squeeze all 3 of these guys in when they become free agents. That's the draft. The Jets and the Giants did very well. The Jets did very well in the 2nd round, adding Breece Hall, moving up with the Giants to get the star running back. So the Jets are positioned very, very well. There's no excuses for Zach Wilson this year. With the weapons that the Jets added in this year's draft in free agency, especially the offensive linemen and Lankin Tomlinson, this team should be light years better than they were last year with the firepower that they have.